Kakalosh Boker Tov. We're just going to continue with Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph 36a1. We're just going to do a refresh, a recap. We're trying to answer up a stira in a doraita and the doraita according to Shitat Rebbe Meir. Why? Because we learned in the Mishnah and Tarot that somebody that touched somebody in the nighttime and he doesn't know if he's alive or dead, and the next morning he wakes up and he finds that the guy's dead. So Rebbe Meir says he's going to be tahor. Yeah, Chachamim say you're going to be tameh. Shekol hatmeot kisha metziatan. So therefore you see that according to Rebbe Meir, that he holds that to do with the safek tuma mina Torah, because obviously tameh met is mina Torah, touching a deceased person is mina Torah, and we're still going to be lenient because we go after the first chazakah. So how could it be here all of a sudden that to do with an eruv of truma that became tameh, all of a sudden he says it's going to be tameh misafek? Right? That's a contradiction. Okay, so basically we had one answer, which the first answer was Rabba Rav Yosef Tamru Tavayu. Now we're going to mention another answer, Rav Amar. This is how we're starting today, Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, 36a1. Rav Amar, Rava comes and he says, Hatam, to do Masechet Tarot, Tre Chazake Lekula. You have two chazakot to be mekel and to permit this safek met. Number one, cheskata met, that we're going to say that he was alive the entire night and therefore, right, it didn't touch anything, which actually made him tameh. Number two, cheskata nogea, the one makes him tahor, exactly, right? It doesn't make him tameh. And the second one is cheskata nogea, the one that's actually touching it. So therefore, since you have two chazakot, so therefore, I'm going to be lenient on smach on the basis of the two different chazakot. The chazakah of the person that he was deceased, but I'm going to say that he was alive as much as possible. And the other one, the actual one that touched it. Hacha, but here in our Mishnah, chada chazakah lekula. There's only one chazakah lekula to be machshir the eruv, right? Which is basically the chazakah of the truma tehora, right? So in a case where you have two different edim, two different witnesses, which are contradicting them in themselves, so therefore, you only have a safek whether it's going to be a kosher eruv or not, and therefore that's it. We just say it's going to be tameh. Okay, so that's the answer of Rava. So says the Gemara, okay, kasha de Rabbi Yosef. Now we also have a contradiction not only between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Meir. Now we have a contradiction between Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yosef. Why? Because to do with the safek, to do with taval or lo taval, which means whether a person did the tevilah or he didn't. Rabbi Yosef said that it's going to be mitameh misafek. Now in our Mishnah, right? He said, Rabbi Yosef said that Safek Eruv is going to be kasher. Okay? So he says, Amar Ravuna Barachinana, says Ravuna Barachinana, Shane Tuma, it's different Tuma midrabbanan, oil v'yesh la ikar min Torah, because since it has an ikar min Torah, right? We're at the top of Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. Yeah, so to answer up the contradiction between Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yosef, what we're trying to say is Ravuna Barachinana says, it's different Tuma midrabbanan because this Tuma has an ikar min Torah. So ever since there is tumah mina Torah, right, and somebody that becomes tamim mina Torah and he has a doubt whether he did tevilah or not, sfekot tameh. So because of that, Rabbi Yosef was also mitameh, right, in a midrabanan, also, in order not to be mezalzel in a doraita, but by isur tchumin, that tchumin is only takana chachamim, it's eno ikar mina Torah. So because of that, he didn't want to make such a decree. Okay? So the Gemara is going to ask, Shabbat nami doraita. Tchumin might be drabanan, but it comes from Shabbat, and Shabbat is Doraita. So answers the Gemara, Kasav Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef holds that Tchumin is the Rabbanan and it's not mina Torah bichlal. So for since it's not mina Torah bichlal, therefore that's why he says he was mekel in the Safek Eruv. Okay, by a doubt of an Eruv, he was actually mekel. V'ibay Teimar, if you want, you can answer another answer. Hadideh had Rabbe. Right, the Mishnah which was in Mikvaot, that he said that a Safek Taval is going to be metamem is Safek, that is his own shita. Because according to him, he's going to be machminim misafek rabbanan. So the same halacha would apply that he's going to be mitameh in the eruv as well. Had Rabbe, but the Mishnah by eruv that is said that eruv is kosher is the rabbi of Rabbi Yosef. The shitat of his rabbi. The economic dictator was you could actually come and you could actually deduce this from the Mishnah when it said, Amar Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef, the fact that he said that this was only in the name of his rabbi of Tulmus. So if it wasn't his own shita is that even the Rabbanans you're going to be machmir. Always, you're going to be machmir. However, though, he was testifying in the name of Tulmus that you're going to be mekel, and that was his rabbi's shita of Tulmus. Until here we're clear?
Yes.
Very good. So now it says here like this. Rava comes and he says, this is another third yishuv to answer up Rabbi Yosef. Okay, because the first one was Ravuna. right? Yikaro min Torah or not. The second one was, right, his own shita or his rabbi's shita. Now there's a third shita. Rava comes and he says, Hata ma'inu tamed Rabbi Yosef. What's the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef that he says it's going to be tameh misafek? Hamed tameh al cheskato, because you have the tameh on its first chazakah. Meaning, this guy is tameh. What do you want to do? You want to say that when maybe he did tevilah or not, I'm going to place him on the original status quo. The original status quo was cheskat tumah. Cheskat tumah is tameh. However, though, right, hamed tameh al cheskato ve'im lo toval. And I'm going to say that he didn't do tevilah. So says the Gemara, one second, but the exact opposite. Right? He says, Hamed mikveh al cheskato. If you're going to, why are you coming and telling me that you're putting the human being on his status quo, original status quo, that it's going to be tameh? Put the mikveh on its original status quo, that it's tahor. Hamed mikveh al cheskato. I'm going to say that it's not lacking anything. So says the Gemara, the mikveh shelo nivdad. The mikveh was never measured. So since it was never measured, so therefore you can't say that it never had a cheska kashrut. So since it doesn't have a cheska kashrut, I can't say put the mikveh on its status quo that it was kosher. It was never measured. Okay? So Tanya, we learned to the Braita. Ketzad amar Rabbi Yosef, how did Rabbi Yosef say safek eruv kasher? Right? He says, irev betruma, if right now he did it in eruv with truma. And then safek mibod yom nitzmetz, then you have a doubt whether it became tameh during the day or during nighttime. The same halacha would apply to perot, fruits that they didn't take off masrot. It's untithed produce. They fixed it. That means they gave the truma masrot, but they don't know if they did it during the day or during nighttime. Zeu safek eruv kasher. This is the safek eruv that we said it's going to be kosher. Aval eruv betruma safek teora safek tema. But if you made an eruv with truma, now you have a doubt whether bichlal this truma is tahor or tameh. Or with perot, safek whether bichlal it was taken off truma or not. Meaning the safek was not when it was done. Meaning what we just said now before is that for sure it was taken off trumot masrot. Safek was when? During the day or during the nighttime? Or for example, for sure, right, it became tameh, but we don't know if it became tameh during the nighttime or during the daytime. However, though, if that's not the case, but rather he was the Erev B'Truma Safek Torah Bichlal from the beginning, whether it was Safek Torah, Safek Tmeah, or by Perot that the Bichlal, did you fix it at all? And the Safek Eruv Kasher, we don't say that, right? But it's not an Eruv at all. So there's a big difference between the two, okay? Maishna, right? So what's the difference between the Truma? Tamar Emet Truma L'Chazkata, you're going to say put the Truma on its Chazakah. Ve'ima Teorayin, we're going to say it's Tahor. Perot Nami. Emet Tevel L'Chazkato, we're going to say the opposite way. Truma was Truma Tehora. I changed the status quo by making it Tameh. So go back to the original status quo. By the fruits, it's the exact opposite. The original status quo is already that it's Tevel, that it wasn't taken off Trumot Masrot. So why don't I just say that, put it back to the original status quo, that it was not taken off Trumot Masrot. So says the Gemara, Lo teima safek mi be'od yom nitkenu. Don't say that it was a safek whether they fixed it during the day. Ela eima safek mi be'od yom nidme'u safek hashra nidme'u. Whether you actually have a safek, whether bichlal became, right, mixed up. That's what he's saying over here. Whether it got mixed up with other things, that's nidme'u. Meaning you're right, because if it was our case, so then that's it. Put it back to the original status quo. Here we have a doubt whether bichlal became miduma, which means that it's a mixture of prohibited things or not. Now we have a doubt whether it was done during the day or during nighttime. And therefore, that's why we said that it was going to be safek. It's going to become an eruv. Okay? By Rav Shmuel, by Rav Yitzchak ben Ravuna. So Shmuel Yitzchak comes and he asks from Ravuna. Hayu lefanav shte kikarot. Imagine a person has in front of him two different breads, two loaves of breads, of truma. Achat tmeah v'achat teorah. One of them tameh, one of them tahor. Ve'amar. So now the Baal Eruv comes and he says, Eruvu li b'teorah b'chol makom shehi. Make me an eruv with the kosher one, with the one which is pure. Ma, what's halacha? At the end of the day, you don't know which one it is. Yeah, so tibai le Rabbi Meir. So he says, according to Rabbi Meir, whether according to Rabbi Yosef. Why? He says, tibai le Rabbi Meir, it's a question according to Rabbi Meir. Akan lo kama Rabbi Meir hatam. When did Rabbi Meir say that over there? Teleka tehora, that there's no tehora, right? That there's nothing of tahor bichlal. Aval hacha ika tehora, but here there is a tehora. So the fact that there's two loaves and one of them is tahor, maybe I'm going to say that Bemet, you use the tahor one. And then there was no problem. Yeah? So he says, O Dilmar, maybe, even according to Rabbi Yosef, that he says usually in the case of Safek Tumat Me'ah, the Eruv is a good Eruv. Lo kamananatam, that's only over there, right, Tehi Torah, Yadala, but if it was tahor, you would have known. Avalacha, but over here, La Yadala, you don't know it's tahor or not. You don't know which one's tahor. So therefore, how are you doing it exactly? So Amalei, so he comes and he says, Ben Rabbi Yosef ben Rabbi Meir, right? Ba'inan seuda ru'ya mibeod yom veleka. Whether according to Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Yosef doesn't work. Why? Because you need a seuda which is fitting, right, for an eruv, because you're going to eat from it. Veleka, and you don't have this, which means the seuda, right? The eruv has to be made out of a seuda that you could eat from it. If you remember, we actually even brought down that the minhag was to eat from the eruv, right? Usually on the whether it's seuda in the morning or seuda shlishit, they ate from the eruv, whether it's eruv tavshilin, whether it's whatever eruv that it is. You understand? So here, if it's not fitting for the owners, so then it's not a good eruv. So that's what we're saying. Ba'mine Rava min Rav Nachman. Ask Rava from Rav Nachman. Kikar zo hayom chol ulmachar kodesh. Imagine a person comes and he says that this kikar today, this bread today is chuli, and tomorrow it's going to become ekdesh. Ve'amar, and then he said, make me an eruv with this bread. Ma what's halacha? Do we say that the ekdesh already starts from Menash Vashot, because that's when it starts, and therefore, since you cannot do an eruv with ekdesh, it's not a good eruv. Or maybe I don't see it, it only happens tomorrow, so therefore it is a good eruv. Amalei answered him, eruv. It's a good eruv. Okay, so the Gemara is going to continue. Hayom kodesh ulmachar chol. What about the opposite way? Today, this bread is kodesh. Tomorrow, this bread is going to be chol. Right? And then he says, make me an eruv with this. Ma what's halacha? Amalei, here he tells him, no, en eruv. It's not a good eruv. Meaning, because right now it's kekdesh, so therefore it's not eruv. Tomorrow it's going to be chol. Doesn't matter. Maishna, what's the difference? Amalei, he told him, he says, when you're going to measure a kud of melach, I'm going to explain it to you. Meaning, when you're going to come and start measuring salt, but a kud of salt, it's a big, then I'm going to tell you the answer. He was basically pushing him off. So the Gemara says, Hayom chol ulumachar kodesh, misfeika lo nachta lekidusha. The kedusha is not chal on the safek, on the lechem safek. Why? But since it's a safek, whether it's ekdesh during the nishmashot or it's nighttime, so therefore we put on the first chazakah, and therefore it's still going to be kosher. It's going to be a good eruv. Hayom kodesh ulumachar chol, the opposite. Misfeika lo paka lemikdusha mineh. Exact opposite. If I say today is kodesh and tomorrow is chol, so then during Menashmashot, which is Safek Yom, Safek Laila, doubt whether it's day during the nighttime, what happens is that since it's already there in the no man's land, I cannot make it not a Safek. So therefore you put it back to the original status quo that it is a problem. But today was a Hegdesh. Tanan Hatam, we learned over there in the Mishnah. Lagin Tevul Yom, a kad, right, a pitcher, a wooden pitcher.
Rabbi, I lost my place. Are you past Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak inquired of Rav Huna?
Rav Shmuel by what?
Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak inquired of Rav Yehuna. Yes. I've lost my place.
Yeah, we're almost at the bottom of the page. We're at the last lines of the page. 3 lines.
Okay, go ahead.
Hatam, we learned over there in the Mishnah in Tvul Yom. Lagin Tvul Yom. A kad shel etz. So we're talking about a wooden pitcher, a wooden jug that was dal to the tevilah, okay, from on Erev Shabbat. Milo min hachavit shel maser, right? And then you came and you filled it up from wine from a barrel of maser rishon, tevel, right? Which means it wasn't separated still the trumot maser. The Amar and he said, "Harez de trumat maser." The wine, right, in this jug is going to be trumat maser. Once it becomes nighttime, the varav kaimim, his words are actually fulfilled. So therefore, if he's going to come and say that I want to make an eruv from this wine, lomar klum, it's not a good eruv. Why? Because since during Ben Hashmashot, during the time of the eruv, it was still tevel, still untithed produce, you cannot do an eruv with untithed produce. Okay? Amar Rava. Rava says, you learn from here. Sof ayom kone eruv. That the eruv is actually dependent upon the beginning of Ben Hashmashot, which is the end of the Erev Shabbat. That's when the eruv starts. Okay? Lamed Vav Bet. 36b. But if you're going to tell me Tchilat Hayom Koneh Eruv, that the beginning of the day is going to acquire the Eruv, if he did say to his messenger, why is it not good? If you're going to tell me it's the beginning of the day, which means that already from the beginning of the Shabbat. So he says, so if you're going to tell me, right, so then the question is, why is it that he didn't say anything? Why not? Right now, at the end of the day, it's fitting for eating. So Rav Papa says, "Afilu tema shetchilat hayom koneh eruv." If you're going to tell me the beginning, which is the sof ben hashmashot, is going to be koneh eruv. You need a Suda which is fitting during the day in order to partake from it. And you don't have that in our case. Okay? Fine. Mishnah. So there's a Mishnah on Vav Bet, 36b, the Mishnah. Matznei Adam al Eruvu. A person can make a Tnai on his Eruv, which means he can make two different Eruvim. One at the end of 2,000 Amot on the east, and one on 2,000 Amot on the west. Ve'omer, and he could say, if right now Goyim come to the east, and I have to run to the west, Eruvin Ma'arav. So then my Eruv is going to be in the west. In Ma'arav, if the Goyim are going to come from the west and I have to run away to the east, Eruvin Mizrach. So my Eruv is on the Mizrach. What happens if they both come in the middle? They come from both sides. Whichever one I want, I'm going to go. Lo ba'u lo l'gabev. They didn't come nowhere. So then I'm like the people of my city. So he actually covered his back on all, Mamash's back, yeah? On all sides. Whether it's to the east, to the west, in the city, everything. He made it tonight, a condition at the beginning. Okay? What happens if a chacham comes on the east? Right? And then what happens is he wants to travel to the next city, to the east, in order to hear the big rabbi. Right? Some big rabbi came. Listening, Richard? Big rabbi came. So he was traveling from one city to another city just to listen to the rabbi on Shabbat. Yeah? Eruvin Mizrach. In a Ma'arav, if the rabbi comes to the west, Eruvin Ma'arav. What happens if you have two rabbis coming? Whichever one I want. Nobody comes. So I become like the city. The Omer of Yehuda says, if one of them was his own personal rabbi, he has to go to his rabbi. And the reason why is because for sure, right? For sure he's going to go to his rabbi more to the other one. Meaning, obviously, he's going to go to his own rabbi. He's not going to go to listen to some other rabbi. Right? Once upon a time, they were very loyal. Yeah? So he's Rabotav. Yeah, and he says...
Means now nobody is?
What?
Means now nobody is?
No, maybe, Binyamin, it's true. You're the one that mentioned you're very loyal. Even when you're in New York, you're still loyal here. But other people, they're not always that loyal. But that's what the Mishnah is saying. The Mishnah is saying, Mamash, it's Vadai. There's no Safek Bichlal. You have your own rabbi. You're not going to go visit him. You have another big rabbi on the other side. No. For sure you're going to go to your rabbi. There's no doubt. Yeah? However, though, if both of them were your rabbis, so whichever one you want, you could go. Okay, says the Gemara. Kiyata Rabbi Yitzhak. Yeah, when Rabbi Yitzhak came, Tani Ipcha Kula Matnitin. He came and he taught the entire Mishnah Hafuch. Yeah? What does that mean? He taught Matnei Adam al Eruvo ve'omer im ba'u mizrach min ha'ma'arav ma'arav. Yeah, exactly. That means basically he was saying that to the same kivun, to the same direction as the goyim. Which, how does that make sense? You understood? One more time. He learned the entire Mishnah the opposite. What does it mean the opposite? It says over here, it means that when we said Matnei Adam al Eruvo ve'omer, if the goyim come from the east, so his eruv was in the west. He taught it no. When the goyim come from the east, the eruv is in the east. When the goyim come to the west, the eruv is in the west. If the chacham comes to the east, right?
Why would he do that?
Exactly. So that's what I'm trying to find out. Says why?
Because it's very simple. Because if the Oyavim are coming, so he knows that they're not going back. So he's going to the side where they're coming from to escape.
Meaning he's going to run in their direction, but a little bit obviously off, because he's not going to run right into them.
Well,
they're coming here in the east.
Okay.
If he's going to run right here,
well,
he's
that's the idea.
chicken without its head. Yeah, you're saying like a different direction, like he's going to try to go from here in another direction.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So he says over here, the truth is there's no footnotes. There's nothing here. Okay? It just says, fine, but he doesn't explain why. Let's see. So he says, so kasha nochrim and nochrim, ayve kasha chacham chacham. Says 1 second. According to this, there's a stira between the goyim in the Mishnah and the goyim that he mentions in the Braita, or the chacham and the chacham. So he says like this: no, nochrim and nochrim la kasha. It's not a stira. It's not a contradiction with the goyim. It says why? Ha befar hagmana, ha b'mare demata. The Mishnah is talking about goyim, which are tax collectors. Okay, so therefore, since they're tax collectors. Yeah, so he's going to run away from them. Right? So what's he going to do? He's going to run the opposite direction. Yeah? What happens is, Ha b'mare demata, the Braita is talking about goyim, which they're the heads of the city. So the opposite. He wants to go to them, to speak to them, to try to, like to lower the prices or to try to do something, to affect something. Tax collectors, no matter how much you're gonna talk, they're just gonna charge you. Yeah, charge it. Yeah, but if you're gonna go and it's a municipal, people in the city.
How much you want to give them?
Yeah, so then you could try to bargain down with them. Try to tell them, listen, you have to lower taxes, you have to do this, you have to do that. So that's why it all depends whether you're gonna run to them or away from them. So the Mishnah is talking about a chacham that he gives the rashot and rabim, and therefore you want to listen to the rasha. He says, however, though the Braita is talking about a melamed tinukot, the makre shema, he teaches how to pray. So therefore, what's happening is that the one which is being the rashot rabim, and one of them is melamed tinukot, the Bal Eruv, wants to go listen to the drasha. So the Ben Hashvashot, he doesn't know which one to go to. Okay? So he says, he makes a condition. If the melamed is going to come to the east, so he's going to get it to the west of the drashan. If the melamed comes to the west, he's going to get it to the east of the drashan. If they both come, so then you have two darshanim or two drashot, whatever it is, whichever one he wants. And that's going to be okay. Okay, so that's how we explained whether it is to do with the chacham and the chacham or to do with the goyim and the goyim. Okay, everyone clear until here?
It doesn't take a kifin.
Yeah.
Okay. Says the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, if one of them was his rabbi, for sure he's going to go to his rabbi. But Rabbanan, and according to the rabbis, what according to them? Sometimes a person prefers to listen to another drasha, instead of listening to his rabbi.
Oh, that must hurt. That must hurt a little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Richard, don't worry, I get it all the time. Yeah, so Amar Rav says, it was under the belt, but it's okay, Richard. I allow myself once in a while. Yeah, Amar Rav says, Leta lematnitin. He says, 1 second, it's not true from our Mishnah. Because we said that if both of them were his rabbis, so whichever one you want, you could go. Right? Which means, right? Leta lematnitin, that basically he's talking about yesh freira. Nidetani ayo, from the fact that we taught ayo, right? This is not the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tani ayo, right? Because ayo taught, Rabbi Yehuda says, En adam matneh al shnei dvarim ke'echad. According to Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, you cannot make a condition on two things in one shot, meaning it doesn't exist such a thing as making a condition, meaning I cannot make a, how do you call it?
Is that a double brera? In other words, does he hold by brera period or not?
So that's what he's saying. He's saying he doesn't hold of the double condition, meaning if this one comes here, I'm going to be there. If that one comes there, I'm going to be there. He doesn't hold of that. That's what we're saying in Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. So according to that, 1 second. Obviously, he's saying Amar Rav. That's what he's trying to say over here. Leta lematini, he doesn't hold of Tani Ayo, because the Ayo taught that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of this. But he doesn't hold of both. Meaning, if this one to that one, so then it doesn't hold, on both sides. So Maishna lekanu lukandelo dem breira. Says 1 second. If you hold it, you don't hold of breira, and therefore it doesn't help in both sides. So the mizach l'marav nayim, so it shouldn't help the breira even for one side. Meaning, again, what was the Mishnah saying? If he comes on the east, so it's going to be, when we're talking about a goy, it was going to be in the west, right? If he comes on the west, it's going to be the east. If it's to do with the chacham, it was the same direction, right? So east is east, west is west. So now the question, though, is, 1 second, if you're going to tell me that that's okay, so what's the difference between that and that which we learned right afterwards, which had to do with if he comes on both sides? If he comes on both sides, whichever one I want. If that's a problem of breda, the other one is also breda. So Maishna de lekanu lekan de lo deim breda. The mizach marav nami em breda. So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan ukvar ba chacham. The chacham was talking about that he already came during Menash Mashot, right? So therefore, right, since the chacham already came, that's what he's saying over here. Since he already came, right, within the 4,000 amot of the city, but he didn't know which one he came. So in such a case, en kinyana eruv talui b'breira, it's nothing to do with breira, because during Ben HaShoshot, for sure, right, you know where the chacham was, but maybe it could be that you just don't know where it is, but for sure, the chacham is already there. So since the chacham is already there, therefore that's why he's saying it helps the breira. So says the Gemara, Adrab, the exact opposite. Later ledayo mimatznitin. Right, Rav should have said the opposite. From our Braita of Ayos is pushed off because of the Mishnah. Because that's what Rabbi Yehuda is holding, that in any case, we do hold the Breira, meaning the opposite, push off Ayo from our Mishnah. So it says the Gemara, we don't want to do that. Why? The Hashamin le Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbi Yehuda actually learned Rabbi Yehuda holds that we don't hold a brera. The Tzrambas we learned in Mishnah and a Tosefta of the Mai, Halokeach Yaim ben Kutim. If you're going to purchase wine, right, between the Goyim, the Kutim, and these Kutim, they do not separate Trumot Masrot. So you have to do it yourself. The Kutim were a group of people that converted, and there's a whole machloka whether there was a proper conversion or not. Okay? So in such a scenario, it says, Omer, sorry, yeah, if a person is going to purchase, so how does he say? So Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, 37A1. It says, Omer, he's going to say, Shne lugin shani atil lafrish, 2 lugin that I'm going to separate, haren truma, is going to become truma. V'asara maser rishon. Now 10 lugin is going to become maser rishon. Okay? So maser rishon is 10%. Tisha, 9 lugin, is going to be maser sheni. Because remember, once you took off, right, the 90, now you're going to take a second 10%, so now it's going to become only 9. Okay? Umechel, and then afterwards, you're going to be mechalel the maser sheni on money that you have in your house. So you're allowed to drink it immediately. These orders are mead. Rabbi Yehuda, they say that it's prohibited. Why? Because they hold that there's no brera. Which means just like we don't say that the mafreya, what you're doing is that this is going to become the truma, this is going to become the maser, the truma maser, or the maser sheni, right? So you see from here that he doesn't hold the brera. So because of that, what happens is we do not want to say that all of a sudden he does hold the brera. No, the ikar is that according to he always holds that there's no brera. Okay, fine. Ula Amar, Ula says, Leita le'ayo mimatniti. We don't hold of ayo from our Mishnah. That which we learn Rabbi Yehuda say, Rabbi Shimon they prohibit. So it says the Gemara, right? Which means that according to this, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is no brera. So it says the Gemara, Ula zuze zuzektani. Ula is talking about zugot, which means Ula is not kores that Rabbi Meir argues with other Tanaim, but rather that the 2 Tanaim together, right? Which means that Divrei Rabbi Meir ve Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Osrin. It's like 2 and 2. It's not like 1 against 3. Okay? Besava Rabbi Yehuda. And does Rabbi Yehuda actually hold? Let's just do Amud Aleph at least. Yeah? So Sava Rabbi Yehuda and Breira, there's no Breira. But now we learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yosef says, Shte nashim shlachu et kinem be'eruv. Imagine you have 2 women that they're obligated a ken. Right? Remember, Masechet Kinim has to do with ken. So ken is whether it's for a yoledet, a woman that just gave birth, or for a zava, right? So they also have to bring, right? A woman that has a sickness, a zava, so she has to bring a ken. Okay? So it says, Shelachu et kinem be'eruv. So they purchased their ken with an eruv. What? They purchased it b'shutafut, with a partnership. 2 kinim. Okay, for their korbanot. Right, with money of both of them. And they gave it to the Kohen. Or shenatnu kinen la Kohen, or they gave their kinim to the Kohen. Eze sheyitzeh Kohen yakriv olah, uleze mem sheyitzeh yakriv chatat. Whichever one, the Kohen has now the choice, whether you want for an olah or a chatat.
Yeah, we had in
Yeah, also. So he says, from the fact that Rabbi Yosef said that it's mutar to the 2 women to buy them together, it comes out that there's brera. Because there's brera in the hand of the Kohen, that he's the one that's deciding which one is the olah and which one's the chatat. So you see that he does hold of the concept of brera. So it says the Gemara, Amar Rabba says, Hatam ki shitnu. There, they made a condition from the beginning. So therefore, since they made a condition from the beginning, that's why it's going to be okay. So Yachiv, so obviously. So it says the Gemara, Kamashalan comes to teach us like the Rav Chasta. The Rav Chasta says, Rav Chasta, Ena kinim mitparshot. The kinim do not become whether it's a chatat or Allah. Lamed Zayin Mubet 37b. Ela beli iblekichata be'alim or besiat kohen. Only when they purchase it, meaning when the buyers purchase it, or when the kohen is the one that's actually going to do the actual sacrifice. So if it's a completely different halacha, because this is now in the hands of or whether it's the owners or in the hands of the kohen when he's going to be the one doing it, actual service. Have a wonderful day. We continue on Amzalom tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rabbi.